Okay, I haven't made a video in a little while. Um, to me, I follow some of the other TIs on YouTube, and some of them make quite a few videos about their situation. I'm not quite as active in making videos about my situation. I've been through it, and by it, I mean like example, 5 days of sleep deprivation, and if you've ever without any drug use. And if you've ever been awake for 5 days straight, kind of get the idea about what I'm talking about. Um, Another example is what felt like 200-degree temperatures inside my cranium from the implant that flew into my head. Um, that was sent. That was flown into my head by the Order of the Perfect's computer. I don't actually give the Order of the Perfect any credit because it is in fact all a supercomputer controlling everyone and everything. Um, I did just want to make one more video. I know it's Christmas, but I wanted to make a video about people not being able to believe me. That's the one. That's the one big thing. People are not allowed to believe me. I was informed by the implant that flew into my head shortly after that no one will ever believe me, and it's because of supercomputer mass mind control covertly controls the individual to disbelieve any information related to mind control. I mean, if people weren't being covertly controlled that way, and the way it works, I'm not really 100%, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not 100% sure on exactly how it works, but it's like the human brain operates or body operates on an electronic impulse. It's why if somebody heart stop, that they connect a defibrillator, positive and negative, and charge it and apply it. It works the same way with the brain. I don't know if you've ever heard of brain waves. The brain waves inside of your brain are a similar electronic frequency and can be controlled technologically externally. Uh, Now, again, this is unbelievable to 99% of the population just because they're being covertly controlled that way. There's nothing I can say to you to get you to believe me. Even if I was a scientist and I went back to school and became a neuroscientist, figured out what brainwaves, from my research about brainwaves, I guess it's a cellular frequency. That's about as far as my knowledge goes regarding the information. Um, but yeah, no, they told me right after they flew the implant into my head when I tried to start telling people, I'm like, everyone's being covertly controlled by a computer, and everyone was like, "You're nuts, you're crazy," because they were controlled that way to call me these names and tell me I'm crazy. Um, but the reality is much different. Where even though I can't tell you that, so I'm not trying to inform people. That's one reason why I don't make 1,000 YouTube videos. There's no real reason for me to continue to make. I mean, one thing I've noticed from TIs who make 3 to 4 videos a day is they get a lot more viewers. They get a lot more subscribers. They get a lot more attention that way because people probably keep coming back to see what's going to happen next. But the one I've been following one gentleman on YouTube quite a bit, and what I've noticed is nothing ever happens. It's like the guy talks about how he's going to well, defend his life, which he says he's going to defend his life, but he's stating that he wants to attack the perpetrators, where he doesn't even know. The Order of the Perfect is the highest level of perpetrators, and even they are innocent because um, logically, if your brain's being completely controlled in an absolute manner by a supercomputer, the actual individual is 100% innocent of all activity. So it just doesn't add up. But yeah, he claims he's going to attack. He claims he's going to sue the cops for not helping him. Um, he claims what else? Uh, just stuff like that, and it doesn't happen. And I get kind of tired of it. I don't go back to that page quite often. I used to be a fairly avid follower because I was like, oh, geez, here's somebody who might actually well, to me, I go back for the comedy. I find it comical having the highest level knowledge, technological knowledge on Earth about supercomputer mass mind control, and then listening to what some of these other targeted individuals have come up with. See, I didn't come up with mass mind control. The order of the perfect flew an implant into my head, and then they were like, look at how everybody's controlled. It's a computer doing it. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But as long as I don't have any children who have to have that happen to them, I'm good. And their reason for telling me what they said is that we just wanted to show you how powerful we are. I'm like, you're controlled like a biological robot by a supercomputer. Where's the power in that? I mean, if it was free individuals acting on their own accord, that's one thing. But just a bunch of people who are trapped like slaves, like all the rest of us, where they say they have the ability to have sex with multiple partners. There's one example that always seems to come up. They can make people look the other direction or always come back regardless of their activities towards them and that kind of thing. But in reality, first of all, those behaviors to me are just abusive. I guess there's what was it that when I was playing poker one time, polyamorosity is what it's called. Polyamorosity is loving more than one person at the same time. So that's just an example. And I was playing poker, and one of the people's names that showed up that was stalking me, obviously, was Polyamorosity, and that's what those people have come up with. I'm a more traditional one-to-one relationship type, but I don't. I'm a 1-to-0 now that I found out about supercomputer mass mind control. Um, but yeah, polyamorosity is loving more than one person at the same time, or multiple people, which includes sexual activity. So that's how they have come up with ways to get around what to me is the traditional human nature of monogamy. And so it's just stuff like that. There's always some explanation beyond that's just abuse. And people buy into it. There's people now that are polyamorous. They believe that's their sexual orientation, and I don't take issue with it. That's their right. They have the right to be that way. They have the right to think that. Um, but unfortunately, it's a supercomputer controlling their brain to believe they are polyamorous instead of where for me it's the same though. It's a supercomputer controlling my brain to believe I'm a traditional one-to-one um, monogamous type. So but it all goes back to supercomputer mass mind control. If you've never heard of it or if you don't know about it, it's because it's kept under wraps very tightly. Anybody who speaks out about it in a public sphere um, gets locked up in the Middle Institute, basically. Even though here's the thing about that. To me, 5150 hold, being placed onto a 5150 hold involves being a threat to yourself or to someone else. Now, when I was placed on a 5150 hold, because I've been sent, I'll be real straightforward about it. I've been sent to the mental institute 5 times. Um, and when I was placed on a 5150 hold, the police officer wrote down claims people are being mind controlled as if, and I should have, would have, could have gotten a lawyer and sued because just because I know for a fact that you and I and everyone else is being mind controlled, that doesn't mean I'm harmful. That doesn't mean I'm violent. That doesn't make me uh, a threat to you or anybody else. It's just plain old information for you to learn, for you to know, or for you to disregard. It's basically however the supercomputer controls you to respond to the information. Um, Other things. I was also. Uh, I'm trying to think. Oh, um, I don't know. It always. I think of something and then it becomes hard to remember. But that's the main thing is your brain has brain waves. It's like your body acting on an electronic frequency again. It's just like applying the positive and negative paddles of a defibrillator to your body when your heart stops. It's because your brain or your body operates on electronic impulse, including your brain, and your brain waves operate on a cellular frequency, at least from my research. Now, I might be wrong about the cellular frequency part, and those brain waves can be externally controlled, just to say it again. Um, Other stuff I've been through, I've had what feels like pops in my brain, like nanotechnological or um, some form of liquid like I had. Oh, well, welcome to my channel. Um, I'm just making a quick video. If you have any questions, though, feel free to ask. But that is how I found out about it. Is a molecular robotic implant flew into my brain from these people who have a private military technological military advantage over everyone and everything. And they have it's like if you've ever seen those CIA and I'm not saying it's the CIA, it's not the government, it's a private cult that controls the world covertly. But if you've ever seen those CIA insects that are used to monitor, that's just an example. That's not as quite as advanced as what I'm talking about with a molecular robot that can fly into your ear, go up inside of your brain, and start a communication with you. That is what I experienced. Um, but there's prime examples within technological spheres of insects that do something similar to what I'm saying. They just aren't quite as advanced. They aren't quite as small. They aren't controlled in the same manner as a supercomputer. And that is the type of technologies that people are dealing with, or that exist. I can't say people are constantly dealing with them. Also, I want to also state that COVID 19 is a completely um, artificially created and artificially mutated by the same group of people, the Order of the Perfect, who covertly control the world using highly advanced supercomputers that are far, far to the extreme. They always ask me, "Don't you want to see our computer, or don't you want to?" Um, well, they used to. They've really been laying off in the past 3 or 4 years now. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm a little older now. But when I was young, it started happening to me when I was 25. How I got into it is I met a woman who I was in a relationship with, and after I found out she was very abusive, I was like, "Please leave me alone." And then the next thing you know, I started getting stalked. They use COVID as a distraction from what's really going on. Well, I mean, it is killing people, but everything can be looked at. It just depends on the way you look at it. Like to me, I count those people as lucky. Now I know they die, but it's the environment of which death causes them to escape. And when you die from, say, COVID 19, which again is artificial, you get out of being controlled covertly. To me, that's a positive. Now, I'm not saying people should kill themselves. I'm not saying that people should, because staying alive, to me, what is the benefit of staying alive? Well, the benefit of staying alive is you consume resources while you're alive. You drive a car if you have one, um, eat food, live in a house, live in multiple houses over your lifetime, um, and spend money, go to restaurants, socialize, all those things that people do. Consumes resources, and those eventually the resources will run out, and then everybody will get out of being controlled covertly. So that's my reason why I would always choose life over death. Now, when somebody does die, say from COVID or being murdered or of natural causes or just any the plethora of ways that people can die, is they escape from the environment and the reality of being covertly controlled technologically. And to me, that's a benefit. So I'm always like, oh, geez, they're so lucky uh, that they died. And it's kind of I know my perspective isn't mainstream, but it's from a highly technological viewpoint. Um, but I've been put through extreme forms of pain and suffering. Not any of this crud in the eye. I got some crud in the eye. Somebody needs to go to the uh well somebody needs to be executed because I got a little crud in the eye, or my knee hurts, or my vision's getting blurry. I mean, people who believe that somebody needs to go to prison because my vision got blurry, or they call a little bit of pain in the knee or the genitals. I know with the gang stalking, genital attacks is actually a fairly major incident. But to me, that's not torture. If somebody can, you know, well, I still smile and enjoy it, but the torture that I went through was like 200 degrees in the brain, um, highly inflamed skin. I'm trying to think of other extreme forms. Oh, extreme forms of pain also inside of my brain because they flew an implant in there. Um, what felt like a balloon was blowing up and the pressure was on my brain so badly. Those to me are forms of gang stalker torture. And I've seen some other folks that claim torture or claim that because their vision's gotten a little blurry as they age, that they're being horrifically under, and they won't stand for it. But I understand, I'm not making fun of those people. I understand that they are also covertly controlled by supercomputer mass mind control. And so they're innocent. Everyone and everything. As gross as it may sound to some people, Jeffrey Dahmer, as an example, if it had, if I was the judge and I would have said, you have been controlled technologically to engage in severely criminal and horrific activities. Yes, no, I agree. Radiation, yeah. I live in a rural area, so um, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the radiation. It's hard to deal with. I don't know if you live in close quarters to other people where you're being irradiated from a close range weapon or something. Oh, but now that you mention it, I was driving down the street and this car pulls up next to me. And I mean, I got blasted by some kind of radiation because it was like, and everything shook. And so, I've also been shot in the head by a laser. I have a mark on the left side of my head. Let me see. It's right there. You can kind of see the outline of it, but my hair kind of blocks it. But it's like right there, center mass. And what happened is two helicopters. I was driving down the road next to some mountains, and two helicopters came out of the mountains. Now, one set up down the road about 300, 400 yards, while the other one came right over the top. And after the first one came over the top, I kept driving. And I'm like, what's going on here? It was crazy. And then I tried to grab my camera, but I was holding it out the like driving my car, trying to videotape helicopters flying around my vehicle. And unfortunately, when I checked my video, I didn't get them on camera because it's so hard, especially when everyone's covertly controlled by supercomputers. It's extremely hard for anybody to believe anything. Like when I tell, and I've said this in my other video, when I talk about the getting shot by a laser cannon from a helicopter, people are like, no, that's a sunspot. Or when I talk about supercomputer mass mind control, I'm the one that has mental issues. Even though it makes sense when the body, yeah, yeah, that's when I'm living in an apartment. Yeah, you're in close quarters with others, which makes it more difficult. Um, you're easier to target. Yeah, genitals, brain shocks to the body. Yeah, I remember one time I was living in an apartment before I was fortunate enough. Let me move this back. Um, before I was Yeah, sorry about that. My microphone shuts off randomly. I need to get that fixed. But what I was saying is they use technologies to interact with my anus, and when they do it, internal uh, the internal implant that flew into my head, they communicate. You're just getting effed in your ass, and just that kind of thing. And the word just, but it just, I mean, and I do it too. I just say just like I'm just saying the word just all the time. Um, yeah, I don't know. If I need to get my microphone fixed, but when you say just, like you're just talking and you just say just because you just had to just say the word just too just much. That's something if you listen to other people talking, you'll know. I mean, I've noticed it that the word just, for whatever reason, is placed into sentences out of place. And it's all part of the linguistics of supercomputer mass mind control. People have to act in a certain manner relative to what would seem natural or normal. Um, this is another one, or that. I'm going with this, or they got that first down instead of the word this and that are used instead of the. And if you listen to people talk, you can hear them saying, um, they just got this first down play things in the voice to skull. Um, yes, and that's because it's a suit. Well, you don't have to believe me, but that's because I remember that. For me, it was Perfectamundo, 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 and then Perfectum, and it would just keep saying it over and over and over and over. It's because it's a supercomputer. It's not a natural person that's inflicting themselves upon others. It is a supercomputer that has no logic. Well, it has a logic because it's an AI, artificial intelligence, but the reason why um, is it's I think it's some kind of entrainment. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. I'm not the I'm not on the other side. I'm not the gang stalkers. I couldn't tell you exactly why they do certain things, But I can tell you that um, they do it for a reason. It's to elicit a specific response over time, whether it's like mind numbing or what. But that's the, at least in my opinion, um, it is just they to drive. Yes, that well. Uh, I understand supercomputer mass mind control. The reaction that the targets um, express are also a supercomputer controlling the individual. So one person might just be controlled to just, well, I'm saying just over and over. That's a fine example. I'm not doing it on purpose. If I could control if I had control over my own supercomputer, then I would first of all turn it off, and then if that wasn't an option, I'd make it so I didn't say just quite as much as I do. But the latest one that I've noticed more and more, and you might have noticed it too, is the word perfect. And it is the Order of the Perfect who is the Illuminati cult claiming responsibility for the activities that have been perpetrated against me. Um, but you might have noticed it, the word perfect has made an astounding comeback in the last year or so. Um, just by, you go and you order something from a fast food restaurant. I don't know if you go to fast food restaurants, but I do occasionally, and it seems like every time perfect. I'd like a number one, please. Perfect. Small fry, perfect. Just that kind of thing. And the word perfect has been, so those are the three words that I've decided are the main linguistic. Is this okay? And so, but I've already gone on for 27 minutes. I mean, I guess I could keep going, but those three words and the tongue motions. I don't know if you've ever watched people do the tongue motions. I have a line of videos. If you haven't, if you're new to, you said you're new to my channel. If you haven't checked out the tongue motions, if you watch people like in sports, um, call anytime I go, oh yeah, no, I got Hun too. Yeah, I never got Babe much, but I definitely got Hun. I was, which I would always think to myself, is that I guess that's normal. I'm a pretty nice person. I don't know. At least I consider myself to be fairly nice in general. So to me, it's like if I come across in a polite and friendly manner, being called Hun by an older lady who's helping me seem pretty normal. And that no one's ever, well, I did get sexually harassed while I was umpiring softball by women um, during during the main targeting, because for whatever reason I've made it past, I don't know why, but I've made it past what I consider heavy targeting into more of a relief stage. I never thought that it would ever happen because the targeting was so heavy. I'd be forced, I don't know if you've heard of forced speech, but I'd be forced to use forced speech, like say, I don't want to be it. I don't want to be it. I don't want to be it. Because they'd always say, go risk being a robot. Well, they wouldn't say it that way. They'd say, go, in other words, go get sex, telling me to go get sex. And I would always reply with, I don't want to be it. But the thing was, it would be from 10 p.m. Yeah, for speech, because they communicate to you in your brain, and then it's like being on a phone call with someone where you're like, I mean, I'm not talking to nobody. I'm talking to the technology that's communicating with me, which then a force response to everything that is said, though, where I'd rather just go to sleep. That's one way that sleep deprivation has been carried out on me from like 10 to 6 a.m. when I'm trying to sleep 8 hours. I'd be forced to say, "Oh, I don't want to be it. I don't want to be it. I don't want to be it," because I really don't, to be honest. So, um, but I think I covered everything about the mind control earlier in the video. You're being covertly mind controlled, whether you know it or not. But I can't communicate that to you because even though I mean I can tell you that it's happening, you will be covertly controlled to either not understand or disbelieve. So, um, what time is it? Oh, it's 3 o'clock where I'm at. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. But thank you for commenting on the video. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below.